That's half of India's billion-plus population does not have access to toilets, leaving people with no choice but to go outdoors.
In all her visits, Yasmin finds at least 10 children suffering from diarrhea due to the lack of toilets. Today, she is worried about this little boy who is suffering from malnourishment.
Uttar Pradesh, we're treating some for encephalitis. That's an inflammation of the brain caused by contaminated food and water or mosquito bites. And it kills hundreds of people during monsoon season.
Introducing Resoil, a sustainable solution to India's toilet crisis, providing sewageless toilets to every household, enhancing well-being, feeding the hungry, cleaning the streets, and empowering 1.4 billion Indians to make a change in their communities, for themselves, for their neighbors, for their children, the future of India. This is a dignifying solution to a dehumanizing problem. This is the future for a healthier tomorrow. This is Resoil.
The safety for the stakeholders and the people that we are thinking of. Closely linked to the fact that of improper removal of bio-waste, and sadly this isn't only a problem in India. 830,000 people die every day or every year due to improper sanitation, and 80% of fecal sludge in the back in the environment in some form or manner.
So how are we attacking this problem? So we had to come up with our 5 engineering design requirements, and the first thing we were looking at was trying to minimize the contact that our consumer has to physically have with the waste. We wanted to bring this to under 1 minute with our process, and this would adhere to the social and cultural stigmas that come along with physically handling and being that close to the waste. We also want to look at the median monthly income that these residents in these Mumbai slums have. It's $35 a month. That's why we need to provide a solution where we can provide something that's under $5 per unit for them to use. These slum communities have little to no access to running water. And that's why we need to provide something that we can use minimal water consumption, where we are using under 1 liter of water per week to use our system. The communal toilet system in India is prevalent. However, people are discouraged from using that due to a lack of safety and a lack of maintenance. So we want to provide a more personal solution to this problem. We want to attack this problem by giving a single toilet to every household in Mumbai. Open defecation is a massive factor to disease transmission in India. But studies show that by combating open defecation and increasing sanitation, you're able to decrease diarrheal and gonorrheal diseases by up to 35%.
In constructing these design requirements, we were able to identify the fundamental problem of the current solutions, and that is that they are not coherent with nor the economic state or the cultural state of Mumbai. So our first concept solution tackled that first economic state. This is a microbial fuel cell. Microbial fuel cells would be implemented into the toilet. What this would do is convert some of the energy from the waste into usable energy, and the rest would be reprocessed for agricultural means. This was wonderful for reducing the net overall cost of the machine, but unfortunately it included a lot of interaction with the actual waste. So concept solution number 2 is a mini incinerator. That mini incinerator completely removed all contact with waste, but unfortunately it was expensive, too expensive to be viable, and thus we came up with concept solution number 3. This is a business model that combines both a service and a product. More on the product.
This right here is our product and kind of process that we'll be going through. So we are providing a system of toiletry access in each household, and coming with that, we are selling this tank right here. This is going to be a 5 to 10 gallon tank that is going to meet the needs of the person, and it comes with a cap that includes a mixer. And in each tank, when it is replaced, will come with a compound that we make that kind of breaks down the human feces and mixes it together and produces a fertilizer. So the process is, it is simply taken out of the house. There is no contact with the feces itself. It is plugged, then transported to another facility over here, where it will marinate and sit for 140 days while the chemical process takes place. Then it will be placed outside to dry and be turned into fertilizer, to where it will be then bagged and sold to communities. This has been tried in Haiti, but the process wasn't really socially accepted here. It did work pretty well, but I feel we have improved this process greatly, and it definitely applies to the people of India. And now for more on the fertilization process.
So human waste has valuable nutrients, and so by composting it, we are able to make those nutrients into a usable fertilizer. However, to make this fertilizer more saturated with nutrients, we are adding a biosubstrate, which is made from readily available materials like food scraps and grass clippings, and we're going to include that in our buckets. So our biggest thing is cost, right? We want to provide this initially to 10,000 Mumbai households, and we're going to do it for free. So we're going to use the money that we make from selling this fertilizer to subsidize the cost, because the right to a toilet is a human right, and these Mumbai citizens deserve that. We are asking that you can help us make this a reality so that we can help people in these situations. It is estimated that by 2030, 2.8 billion people will lack access to proper sanitization systems. And with innovations like Resoil, we can help prevent that. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Resoil. Judges, do you have any questions for the team?
I do. One of the things that is a concern of taking human waste and turning it into fertilizer is the viruses and the diseases that are continuing on. How are you going to address that? I imagine that part of it is as with the day amount of time, but how are you going to ensure that that is actually completed before you turn that into some kind of fertilizer?
Well, to actually, there have been a bunch of studies on how to make sure that the fertilizer is ready to be used on even food. And so that ensures mostly making sure the temperature is constant. So if we can, implementing when we go in this facility where we're keeping the barrels, checking the temperature weekly or bi-weekly, that will be able to allow us to know that it's going to be ready by the 140 days we're expecting it to be in there.
Is it the external temperature that's being stored at, or the internal temperature
of the soil itself? Okay.
I'll take a look at some of the innovations that are happening in the RV industry, like cartridge toilets, compost toilets. Any comparability or applicability of this technology there?
I definitely see comparability. I think the biggest thing with ours is that it is more of a cheap solution that is, targeted towards communities that need this versus, like RVs where that can be more of a more put together, more expensive, more presentable option.
What is the market for the fertilizer in that local region? How much can you support compared to population? And where, what did you base your numbers on for the cost versus your, the waste, how much waste you generate?
So India has a huge agriculture sector, and one of the main problems with the soil itself is that whenever it comes to a conclusion of the season, they burn the crops. And that ends up not only polluting the environment, but also the soil itself isn't as healthy for them to replant any sort of vegetables or whatever they're planting, right? So with this soil, the market would be to the entire agricultural industry, because it will enable them to be able to grow at faster rates and produce more food. Costs.
Can they afford to buy?
At the prices we're selling, which is, we base it off of market prices. I can't remember exactly the numbers right now.
46 cents a liter of fertilizer.
So yes, they can afford it.
Okay. And how does that compare to other fertilizer options right now?
We sort of put it at the same baseline as the other fertilizer to be able to use that money to then subsidize what we're producing, which is the toilets.
What is the physical structure of So this physical structure would you're talking about the toilet or the tank? So just one of them. We would like to source things locally, and there's a bamboo option, which 14% of the floors are made of bamboo. We try to integrate that into kind of a compound that is sustainable for the households. And then the physical tanks would be made out of we've been considering options such as ABS, which is a type of piping. And then we're also considering a type of plasticized bamboo, which is also sustainable, and it helps us where we can reuse the tanks as well. So after we're done pouring them out onto the grounds to dry, we can reuse them and put them back in the household.
While you're at that prototype, can you explain? Can you show me how this works? I mean, I understand the tank. I got that piece of it, but I don't understand the fluid flow.
So the flow starts up here. There's a double flap right here. So this is the first flap, and then you just turn this lever right here, which would release the second flap. And it is angled in a way to where it kind of brings everything together into this central pipe you see in the back, and it is transferred into the tank right here. And I also have these other two prototypes, which I just wanted to show that we could kind of adhere to any different households that there might be. If there's not enough space on the outside, we could completely fit it on its side into the inside. And also this one right here, it could be kind of half in going straight down into it.
So maybe one more. If anybody has one.
I was going to ask about logistics, whether you had thought about transporting these tanks. Is that left up to the user? Is that part of the service? How does that affect cost?
So we did implement that into our initial cost, which was $115,000 for the initial cost operation. So essentially, the tanks would, if there was a service, the service aspect of this is that these tanks would be picked up by essentially the company. right? So you are not, you as the user of our toilet and our tank, you're not doing anything except for, going to the bathroom. So we pick these up, we mix them, we bring them to the facility, and then while we're doing that, we're replenishing your bucket. So one constraint that we came across here was that the roads in these areas are very narrow. In India, something that they utilize is like these 3-wheel motorcycles called tuk-tuks, and these have kind of carriages on them. So that's kind of what you're using to get through these little roads. You're gonna take these from each of the houses where it's utilized, put it on, replenish, take it out to a bigger truck, take that truck to the facility, and we accounted for the cost of labor. We took that median monthly income, and that was around $35 in that area. We said, okay, we're gonna give them 50. The cost of labor, we give them 50 to each of the workers, and we estimated that we would probably need $500 to $600 as our monthly cost on labor for this process specifically.
Okay, thank you, team. Aqua Shield, come on up while the judges finish their grading.
This is Alka Palanda and her son.
No, we put it over there. Sure. Yes.
Judges, you about ready? Need a minute? Okay. All right, Team Aqua Shield, whenever you're ready.
This is Alka Palanda and her son Naresh. On June 25th, 2023, their home in Mumbai, India, collapsed from a monsoon. After an overnight rescue operation, it was revealed that both them and their dog were killed. This situation is not uncommon in Indian slum communities.
Now, dozens of people have died in flooding as torrential rains sweep across India.
There are so many poorly maintained structures and makeshift settlements, too risky to be inhabited, but people continue to live there.
उसके बाद हमने अपने घर का थोड़ा बहुत जो सामान निकल पाया वो निकाल पाए बाकी कुछ एक दो घर ऐसे हैं जिसमें से हम बिल्कुल भी नहीं निकाल पाए.
These houses are poorly made of waste materials such as cardboard, tin, wood, and plastic. During India's 2023 monsoon season alone, there were over 2,000 deaths, many being due to structural collapse. The need for safer homes in slum communities has never been felt more than now. So what can we do? Introducing our product Aqua Shield, revolutionizing housing conditions for slum communities so we can save people like Alka and Naresh and make their houses finally feel like homes.
So the biggest thing that we come into is heavy rain accumulation leads to a lot of structural collapse in these slum, low-income Indian communities. What we want to do is prevent, hopefully, all of those injuries, the relocating of families. All of these families have to move and find somewhere else to go when they already really didn't have a very good place to go. And bring that into low-income communities that cause injury and even death.
What we wanted to do with our product is support these homes and ensure that they have the strength to withstand 5 centimeters of rainfall per day for up to at least 10 days. We want to make sure that there is efficient installation, so the product should be able to be installed in under 24 hours. Taking into consideration our target customers, we want to make sure that it is affordable, so we want to make sure it's less than $800 for selling. In terms of ease of operation, considering that these communities are tightly packed and we can't have high construction in this area, in this space, so it should be installable and operable by up to 5 people, maximum of 5 people. And in terms of the environment of these communities, we want to make sure that our product is sustainable, so we should incorporate recycling and reusing waste when manufacturing our product.
So these were our 3 ideas considered. Firstly, we started off with the community vertical farming water reservoir. How this would work, it would send out water through pipes to nearby homes. The issue with this is that there was so many moving parts and it was such a broad design that we scrapped that. And then there was a protective wall installation. This was good for protecting against the elements. The issue though is that this does not necessarily help the structural foundation erosion that is caused by rain gathering up near the house. Then we had the above building draining idea. This would take water from above the building and send it off to local water storage like canals, rivers, and sewage systems. But the issue with that one is we wanted to find a way to utilize that water.
What if we could do all 3?
Introducing AquaShield. AquaShield is a revolutionary method to revitalize these Indian communities. It is a modular housing solution that uses interlocking panels of recyclable plastic waste, and it forms a structure that also supports these Indian slums. The heavy rainwater that accumulates on the roof is channeled down onto the sink at the top, where the water is channeled down into two different routes. It could either flow through the gutter system and go straight to the local drainage, or it could be channeled down through 3 vertical farms. After being filtered through the 3 vertical farms, the water is flowed into the storage container, where there is a sensor in the container that tells the family about the contamination levels in the water. This entire structure is supported at the base through a concrete foundation to provide structural support, and this form of a solution redirects the heavy rain that could have accumulated at the bottom and caused erosion, and it redirects it into a sustainable method.
Let me give a little product demonstration on how this would work with the vertical farm situation. So when rain comes down and it hits the roof of the wall, it's going to slide off, and right here, when it enters our chamber, there would be walls here that would contain it and send it through a gutter going to local water storage. What would happen with these 2 holes right here, I know y'all can't see it, but there are 2 holes right here, and these drop down to the vertical farm storage. It goes through multiple vertical farm sections, filters out the water with soil and charcoal, and then it lands in a storage container that the family would have.
So when it comes to that storage container, especially through the vertical farming, we want to notify the residents in case that water is contaminated. So there would be a sensor, and if that sensor gets covered, this light turns red, and that would notify the family, ensure the health and safety.
Our sustainable solution utilizes high-density polyethylene materials, and also uses reinforced concrete, PVC pipes, and basic electronic components. As you can see, our design was designed with cost in mind and provides very cheap solutions for our customers. And we performed many FEA simulations with high wing loading, high winds, and water pressure. And this, we can see from this, the maximum stress and displacement of our structure is within acceptable limits. And so we are customer oriented here at AquaShield. So we provide documentation with like assembly, suggested use, and also keep in mind the sensor outputs. So we would have that pH sensor or any type of water contamination sensor that we would use, and that would be flash in a simple, easy red or green manner, and be this is good to use, this is not, and this is how we had treated it accordingly.
So the future of this, right now it just looks like a wall. What we want to eventually do with it is, because of our interlocking panels and the simplistic design, we would eventually want to be able to add all 4 walls as well as a roof. So it would be a completely new home renovating system with 1 wall at a time. We'd like to add a variety of panels, so you'd have a door panel, a window panel, to make it truly a home. So imagine half of this room was living in unsanitary and unsafe living conditions. Join AquaShield and allow us to help these communities just as you would help the person sitting next to you. Thank you.
Judges, what questions do you have for AquaShield?
So, how does your cost, so you have the $800 target, how does that compare to what they would normally be spending? It sounded like a lot of it was salvaged materials, so how does that compare to?
Right.
And is that for 1 wall, or is that for the full home, and how does that compare to their current housing cost?
Okay, so we started with that 800 budget to keep it simple. And with a 4x8 wall, 4 foot by 8 foot wall, that would come out to a total of $541. Currently, there was one grant sent out by the Indian government, permitted by the Indian government, to give $1,200 of restoration per home for the slum communities. Considering this is $541, that falls into what was previously proven from grants. So that's why we think this would be a good solution.
Did you determine about the average size of the roofs in this particular area?
About 100 square feet.
100 square feet.
Yes.
How much water does 100 square feet, an inch, falling on 100 square feet, how much water is that?
So with our calculations, we got 125 gallons total
Okay.
coming off of that roof over the 10-day period.
And that is during a heavy monsoon season.
Correct.
A heavy monsoon season, about
Yes.
how much water, how many inches is that, or centimeters? I
It's
don't care.
about 5 centimeters per day.
5 centimeters per day, so 125 gallons. Your tank is holding 20 gallons, right?
Correct.
And what happens to the rest of it?
There's a separate drainage system on the side that would channel the water through local drainage systems if the water tank
Okay, so it's not either or, it's both.
It's both. It provides a separate method for the water to overflow into. So the primary method is for the storage tank, but the separate method is also to overflow into a drainage system.
Okay, and then finally, there is a method of getting the water out of the streets or in the drainage system once it's channeled there.
Well, yeah. So the entire structure of the wall, it redirects it through vertical farms and stores it into a sustainable way. And that is already taking a lot of the water that could have accumulated onto the streets. That's already redirecting that water that could have caused erosion into the slum communities.
Okay. Anything else, judges?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You cleverly combine this filtration system and sensors to detect contamination and that sort of thing. It seemed like your problem statement started out mostly about just the structural integrity. One of the things, so I think that. How much of a factor?
Well,
how much weighting did you give to these other factors?
Yeah, so the main consideration is to be able to disperse the waters that would be accumulated on the roofs of like these houses. Because if you look at how these are actually structured, if you remember from our video, these are very close together slums, right? So because they're so close together, we're trying to take and offload all of that water that would have been accumulating in that region and channel that down. So we have this solution that can then channel this to the external draining system that we're relieving any of that excess water that was accumulated. So that's kind of the essence of our
Another solution this provides is right here for this wall. When water is coming down onto here, this would drip down and just land right next to the structural foundation of the house. When water comes down in our quantities on that wall, this would be collected into we only have one here, but this would be a chamber that goes across the base of the wall. When this water collects into this chamber, it's sent off. And since this is protecting the exact side of the house and the wall is here, the structural foundation of the original wall is not being affected and damaged, and we're preventing immediate erosion.
I also wanted to add that the reason we have the vertical farms and the sensors is to provide a sustainable method, so that it's not just the filtration system, because we want to eventually implement this into actual slum communities, and the government will not be willing to do this if this only a simple filtration system, because they would have already done so. So having the vertical farms, the sensors, and all the other capabilities of this would encourage the government to take these steps forward and implement the solution.
One more.
So, talk to me a little bit about space constraints. I mean, a lot of the videos you showed talked about like these buildings were close together, if not abutting each other. How much space does this take, and is it feasible across?
Yeah. So the main our solution is we have interlocking panels. So all these panels are 1 foot by 1 foot square panels that are made from recyclable plastic. So that way you can customize them to any house, basically. Like whatever the structure of the house, you can go examine it and customize it, because these are simple sliding panels that are interlocking, basically, and they still remain the structural integrity of the system.
What about footprint, though? Not just the space, the vertical space, but the horizontal space this takes. If you've got houses right up against each other.
We were originally thinking that this can be on the front of the house. Since the front of the house is facing the street, this would have enough space to extend past. And also, since this is on the front of the house, that's where a lot of the erosion issues will be and where the house can slide to. And we could, if the house pertains, it will be different for different houses. But if the space does allow, we could also do this on the different walls.
Thanks, Team Aqua Shield. Now it's time for your local utility, Aggie Electric. City. Judges, just a minute.
It's going to be a cold, dark night.
Whoa. I just said wait until the judges get.
It is going to be a cold, dark night for many South Africans.
South Africa is sinking into dark.
Country's deepening energy crisis.
In Africa, communities struggle every day. Blackouts leave them in the dark, longing for the power to do simple tasks. Imagine a world where every sunrise brings not just light, but endless possibilities. In Africa, the sun doesn't just rise, it promises a brighter future. But when the sun sets, so do these possibilities. What if we could change that? What if the sun's power could stay with us, even after it sets? Meet SunSteam, a leap into the future. It's simple. We use mirrors to concentrate sunlight, boiling water to create steam. This steam then spins magnets around a coil, converting sunlight into electricity. And the best part? We collect this steam, turn it back into water, and start all over again. Endless energy from an endless cycle. With SunSteam, the end of daylight no longer means the end of opportunities. Education, safety, warmth, now within reach for every home, every heart, powered by the sun long into the night. With SunSteam, we harness the power of the sun to bring light and energy where darkness has lingered for too long. It's not just about providing electricity, it's about igniting hope, empowering dreams, and enabling progress in every home and heart we touch. This is just the beginning. With SunSteam, we're not just imagining a brighter tomorrow, we're making it. Join us and let's bring light to every corner of the world.
Hundreds of millions of people in Africa need reliable and affordable electricity to light their homes, power education, and fuel development. Picture this. Picture this. When the sun goes down in Africa, many homes stay dark. Why is this? It's because they don't have electricity. They need electricity to power their homes for any electrical process that they need. Imagine this. You can't charge your phone. You can't run your food in your refrigerator. You wouldn't be able to turn on your bathroom light at night. 600 million people have to go through this in Africa. Take a look at this picture on the left. This lady is struggling to turn on her stove because she doesn't have electricity. This picture on the right, there are about 6 or 7 African students huddled together trying to study. And you can't see it outside of this picture, but there's someone holding a flashlight up above to help these guys have light. They only have one flashlight, and this is almost ridiculous to me. I'm gonna pass it on to Michelle.
Thank you, Kai. Before we go to the specs, let's get into our context. Africa has 60% of the world's best solar potential, with the gift of 470 minerals. But what's the problem? We have lack of access to electricity, and mainly the less percentage is Central Africa. Why is this happening when they have so many resources? They have lack of power grids, issues related with outdated programs, systems, unreliable, insufficient funds. They have poverty as well as lack of skills for maintenance purposes. Now I'm gonna be handing it to Piper.
So for our design requirements, we knew exactly what we needed to do for number 1. The energy production for the average household is 5,000 kilowatts hours a year. So we had to make sure that it could power the entire household. For the second thing, to make it economically feasible, we set a budget of $1,000 to $2,000 based on their monthly income. For 3, we chose to make it renewable energy since they had several resources already available. For 4, since the average household is about 50 meters square, we wanted to make sure it was small enough to either go on their roof or be located nearby. For energy, we wanted to make sure that it would run no matter the time. So for storage, we have at least 5 kilowatts an hour, so that way it can even run throughout the night. Now I'll pass it on to Paula.
Okay, some of the possible solutions available now and widely used are biomass and solar power. Biomass is burning organic material to create fuel or heat. However, the amount of material needed would exceed the possible amount that would be possible to get in one day. It would be close to 5 tons per year. That is a huge amount of wood or bamboo or anything they need to get. The size would be big, but still possible to keep in a house if it's outside or a backyard or anything like that. The renewability, we didn't consider that as a positive factor because once that material is used, it cannot be reused after it is burned off. The cost is also very expensive because you need to buy the machine, the fuel for it, and also buy anything to convert that biomaterial into heat. For solar panels, solar power is already very used in Africa. It has the potential to have a lot of energy generated to store that energy to use overnight, and the size doesn't matter that much if it goes on the roof.
However, the cost associated with this is not something the average African household could afford. To talk about the concept we considered and developed, I'll hand it over to Thomas.
So our solution is basically sun steam. It has the power to generate our annual energy that we need for a average Central African household. In addition, it also can store enough energy, as well as being small enough to fit on top of a roof or nearby a house. Additionally, it is also renewable, but most importantly, it's also affordable for these Central African households. Now, with the system up here, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Adai to explain it.
Alright, so in our design, we're trying to make everything as simple and as affordable as possible. So our hero here is a simple car alternator that's available to everyone to buy and use to generate the electricity for the household. And the way we're going to run this alternator is by attaching it to a pneumatic motor. The pneumatic motor is usually powered using compressed air, but in our design, we're going to use compressed steam instead. This compressed steam is generated by concentrating the sun rays using this cylindrical mirror to heat up the water that we have in this tank, and then use that compressed steam to power the pneumatic motor and then generate the electricity using the car alternator. The steam coming out of the pneumatic motor will be at lower temperature and lower pressure, but still needs to go through this condenser to be condensed back into water and pumped using this water pump back into the tank in order to have a closed cycle. So based on the initial calculations and estimates, using 2 car alternators, we're confident that we can generate the household energy needs, and the cost will be maintained within the budget that we set for the project, which is between $1,000 and $1,500. And by the way, the energy consumption of the water pump and other losses in the system are taken into consideration. So the impact of this on the community will be with my friend Zai.
Africa has a lot of sunlight, and that's the answer to our solution, right? Africa, we can use this sunlight here to make energy to power anything your typical African citizen would need, right? We're not just trying to make a brighter future for everyone. We want to help everyone so that they can have a better chance for learning, be more healthy in general with the kitchen picture, and just be better in general, right? Our solution, it's all about using what you have, right? The sun. So join us, and it's all about using the sun, right? So join us to make a better life for everyone. Thank you.
I'd like to push back a little bit on the perceived complexity of this versus solar. So could you dive in a little bit deeper into why this is less expensive, a less expensive solution than compared to just this solar panel and a battery?
Okay. Usually in Africa, there's 2 different types of programs used for solar panels. Either a very small kit, $30 or so, and 1 lamp. And that is effective in household, but it would only do 1 light for 1 person in 1 room. It would not generate enough energy for the day, for the night, for the whole house. The other is government funding. So they take a large amount of money and they put in these solar panels, and then citizens can pay as you go. But what they found is over time, the studies show that the costs really add up and people are consuming less energy than they are paying for. This would help lower the cost. It would be an amount of money paid up front, but it would be good for years, so they can pay these low costs now and have it over time. And it wouldn't be an amount of energy that's absurd for them that they couldn't use.
It is going to be a...
So if I might add one more point. So the answer to that is simple. So we need 5,000 kilowatt hours per year for the household. So we did the math. How much energy can a 1 meter squared of solar panel generate? And by calculating how much area we need and the cost of these panels, the cost came out to be about $5,000 to $8,000. So using just a simple car alternator, maybe just $80 or $100 with a pneumatic motor and some water pump and fabricating a simple tank and simple mirror, the cost was way less than a solar panel. We need to keep in mind that these countries are poor countries, and as we mentioned earlier, the median income is between annually is about like $8,000 or less than $10,000. So when we say that the cost is about $8,000, you're talking about the money that a household makes in a year. We're not talking about the other costs that they have, food, education, and anything else that they need to pay for. So that amount of money might sound a small amount of money here in the U.S., but it's a great deal for them.
Tell me a little bit more about the size that needs to be to generate the amount and the storage size for the storage aspect, because you emphasized overnight very much too.
So we need 2 car alternators in order to be able to generate the household need. And the way we calculated that, we were conservative when we calculated that. We said that we're going to have, on average, about 6 hours of effective sun a day, all over the year. We know that we might have, like, let's say, 10 hours of effective sun rays, or 12, but we were conservative in our calculations, and we said, on average, for the entire year, we're going to have about 6 hours of effective sunlight. So, back to your question, as I said, based on that, 2 car alternators will be enough to generate the energy needed for a household.
But what about the sun, the 2 storage, the alternators, that's not how much sunlight you get.
So we actually don't have any problem with the water and the steam. Our constraint is the maximum power from the manufacturer for the alternator. So that's the maximum limit that we can't exceed. If we want to expand that, we need to add more alternators. But for the tank and for the mirror, when we did the math and when we went to the thermodynamics calculations, we can actually provide more than what's needed by this pneumatic motor and the alternator. So again, our bottleneck here is just the maximum power set by the manufacturer for this alternator.
In terms of size of the mirror, we're probably looking at the size of a small shed to take up space. If you're curious about the space, that's what it is.
The entire space will fit within the roof of the household.
Okay, maybe we move along that. So maybe one more if the judge has one.
Well, you showed in your schematic that you have batteries.
Yeah.
So what are the specs? In more detail on the battery?
So the battery, again, we were constrained with the cost that we need to maintain. So we selected the minimum battery that can store energy for one night. Of course, if we have more budget, we can add more batteries or buy a bigger battery. So the capacity of this battery is about 4 to 5 kilowatt hours, and it costs about $700. So
thank you, Aggie Electric. Project Aurora.
It's all good.
Guys, so I'll tell you something. So you guys just get settled in. Let's let the judges wrap up their judging of the last team. What is the native language of Papua New Guinea? Like anybody's gonna know, right? Submit the winning team. Okay, the judges appear to be ready, so Project War, whenever you're ready.
Hey guys, I'm Davis. This is Greg, James, Vishnu, Axel, and Michael, and this is Project War.
Papua New Guinea has the world's worst access to clean water. Nearly 80% of people do not have access to clean drinking water. Water is fetched by hand by predominantly women and girls. Meet Rindala, a 13-year-old girl who embarks on an arduous journey every day to fetch water for her family from a river located miles away from her village. Whether Papuans are getting water from creeks, rivers, or wells, due to a lack of sanitary facilities, open defecation is rampant and all water sources are contaminated. Every day, nearly 3.5 million people collect water for their families. We have examined the water collection process and condensed it into 5 steps. Beginning with the source, Rindala collects her water from the river, but other common sources are wells, creeks, and springs. Collection is done with repurposed plastic jugs and other available containers. Women and girls have to walk up to 3 hours back to their village daily while carrying 40 to 50 pounds of water for sustenance and hygiene for her family. The water is left in the jugs and exposed to further environmental contamination because of the lack of proper storage methods. Water is used for drinking and cooking, but oftentimes there is not enough for basic hygiene like washing their hands and clothes. The water collection process results in the rampant spread of deadly microbes including Giardia, E. coli, and dysentery. During the last 48 hours of this competition, it's estimated that 33 people have died in Papua New Guinea due to waterborne disease. Existing initiatives insufficiently address this problem for isolated rural communities that make up the majority of Papuans. The people of Papua New Guinea need a new approach. We are Project Wara.
So, as you can see from our video, the water crisis in Papua New Guinea is a pretty big deal. But what's important to understand is that it's a very unique water crisis. You see, Papua New Guinea is an island, and the majority of the region is mountainous. The entire central region of the country is a mountain full of rural and disconnected communities with limited ways of connecting them through roads. What this means is the way that most international NGOs have attempted to solve this problem by building piped water systems and drilling wells only applies to the coastal urban areas in the country. However, 85% of the population lives in these central rural areas, and that means that these machines, they just can't go inside. These systems are not helping the majority of the country's people and the people who are most at risk. And that's where we come in. Project Wara, we are committed to creating a rainwater collection and water filtration system for isolated rural communities in Papua New Guinea to ensure equitable access to safe and potable water for everyone.
So before we could start designing our solution, we had to first become experts on the water collection process that millions of Papuans go through every single day. So we isolated this process into 5 distinct steps, from understanding exactly the sources of water, or the sources where people are getting water from, to exactly how it is being used. From there, we examine all the problems that existed within each step. So we know about how women and children will oftentimes collect water at dawn and dusk to avoid the heat of the day, but therefore leaving themselves vulnerable to violence and rape. And also how after all of this intensive effort to getting the water, there is not even enough water for other purposes besides consumption, so they cannot engage in practices that are hygienic or sanitary. While this effort is, or while this process is incredibly intensive for us to analyze, it is important to understanding where the greatest pain points lie, as well as what our solution should look like to best solve that problem. And that problem, we've narrowed it down into three distinct problems. Firstly, the limited quantity of water that the Papuans can carry back to their villages by hand. Secondly, the inaccessibility of the existing water sources. And lastly, the cleanliness of the water that they are collecting. Unfortunately, we were left with a difficult choice. Because of the limited resources that we possess, we realized that without capital-intensive infrastructure development, we will not be able to solve all three of these problems. We had to make a difficult choice, and we realized that the most dire and urgent problem was the water cleanliness issue. Now, while we may not exterminate the other two problems, our solution is actively seeking to mitigate the effects of the other problems, and through a public-private partnership with the government of Papua New Guinea as well as Australia and larger, much better funded NGOs, we hope to integrate our solution with further infrastructure development.
So this led us to our three main problems. First is the 1 to 3 hour travel time that it takes to grab the water. Then there's container limitations, as these are just random buckets that they're picking up to use them. Finally, the unsafe drinking water is a critical problem in these people's lives. So with these main problems, we created design requirements that our product had to implement. First is durability, as these communities have low infrastructure, they don't have access to power tools, so it would be really difficult for them to maintain whatever product we give them. Also, sanitary water is very important, as one of the leading causes of death in Papua New Guinea is waterborne illnesses. Energy independence is our third major component, in that only 13% of people in Papua New Guinea even have access to electricity. Next is transportability. We have to be able to distribute our product from manufacturing in Australia by boat to the port cities, and then through air and on pickup trucks into these remote highland villages. Finally, affordability, as we have to be able to be cheaper than the next leading solution, which is wells. These design requirements led us to three initial solutions that we brainstormed.
So our first solution was a stove-powered hydro panel. At a super high level, it takes in energy and heat from the stove and creates a high pressure area and a low pressure area on the other side. And it forces the humid air of Papua New Guinea through a semi-permeable membrane to draw the water out of the air. The problems of this is cost. That costs a lot. The second is health problems. If we don't manage the CO and CO2 coming out of the stove, we can run into health problems for the Papuans. The second idea was to plant a large-scale solar still. Basically, we capture and collect water from plant matter. At a very low level, it's a bag for a tree. So there's this helps with costs. It's very low, but the two main problems is it doesn't create enough water, and it requires a lot of maintenance.
Our third solution that did meet all of our proposed design criteria is an improved rainwater collection, storage, and filtration device. Our system is made out of modular panels that allow customization for whatever size storage required for the village. It also includes a large canopy, increasing the aerial surface area, to allowing it to gather rainwater for the dry season. In between the canopy and panels, there's a fine mesh, that serves two purposes, both removing particulates from the storage container before it can enter, and reducing evaporation during the dry season. To access this water is moved through the filter, removing any bacteria before consumption. These filters can also remove particulates and bacteria from any other sources that they may need supplemental water from. Every component of our design is made out of a high durability polymer capable of lasting in the Papua New Guinea environment for many years. The lifespan of a filter is approximately 1 year, but this is heavily dependent on the size of the village. The entire component can be built using only basic hand tools and repaired with these same hand tools which will be given to the community. This is critical as our target demographic is deep in the interior of Papua New Guinea with little access to outside resources or assistance.
We also wanted to ensure that our filter was producing sanitary water, which we defined using these two measurements of bacterial contamination level as well as dissolved particulate matter. If you look at our filter, you can see that it has two stages, one for removing particulates and one for ensuring an antimicrobial water supply. Our filter has two inlets, one for rainwater passing through from the large collection barrel you see here, and the other for small pots of water dumped in from a river. The dirty water from a river would go through both filters, whereas rainwater, which is essentially distilled, would only have to go through the antimicrobial filter. Also, our device is gravity fed due to the nature of these filters and can be used in remote locations, ensuring it's energy independent.
We also wanted it to make it transportable, so we bring it from Australia to the inland, and then we put it on pickup trucks, and then we send it out to these rural villages because Papua New Guinea has over 381 airports. Next, we wanted to make it affordable. The next best option is wells. Those cost over $15,000 per village, and we wanted to make it less than $15,000. We use local materials in our filters, such as zeolites and other nanoparticles. So we also have minimum manufacturing costs in order to. We have a minimum manufacturing cost system that is pressure thermoforming in order to produce these at a mass scale.
Thank you.
Questions for project or Laura? How many gallons does this thing hold?
So it's going to be heavily dependent on what the village size. This is our standard configuration. That is each one of these panels is about half a meter tall. So this would be 7,000 gallons.
So this is for
7,000 liters.
7,000 liters. Okay. And this is meant for a village.
Yes. So the size of this would be designed for a village of about 150 people.
And how long will that sustain them?
So this would be seen as more of an emergency supply during the dry season. This would not last the entire dry season, but you could use the other intake on the filter to supplement this with other water. But if you were unable to due to an injury or an emergency, you would still have 7,000 liters to access.
So the problem is, they have access to water. They don't have access to clean water. They're making walks. So if you insert water into this funnel on top of each filter, you pour water in there, it's just gravity fed. And here it captures rainwater during the rain season to help a lot of people make the trip to get water less and less.
Okay, so this is a water filtration and a capture system.
Yes, and storage is also very important as they have no real sustainable storage systems.
This also allows you to use two different vessels for storage and gathering water, as if you're storing your water in the same vessel that you gathered it in the dirty creek with your bacteria, you'd still contaminate it. So here, if you have a gathering vessel, you run it through your filter, and with a separate, more sanitary storage vessel, you're drastically reducing the risk of bacterial infections.
So James is saying that it eradicates our primary problem, which is this lack of clean water, and mitigates this issue with storage and accessibility.
So is this a solution that's going to have to be cleaned out with some regularity? I mean, I'm thinking of my own fridge filter that I've got to replace because it eventually starts getting clogged up.
So our filter is designed as a replaceable module because filters, by their nature, end up clogged. And so if you would take, is it in the manual?
The filter isn't, but if you can insert and pull out the particulate filters at the top.
So if you're more concerned about particulate filters, which would probably get more clogged quickly than the zeolites and bacteria filters, those can be easier cleaned and cleared out. And we expect it to be about, for a 150 population village, it should be about once a year that you have to replace the zeolite filters.
So you could clean it out during the rainy season?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So the square part of this is containing the water, right?
Yes.
So all of those panels have to interlock in a watertight way?
Yes. So if we want to go back a couple slides, we have a system of bolts and gaskets that do. So it is going to be a little bit time consuming to assemble this, but we're hoping that this is a community effort involving the whole village, assembled using only basic hand tools that we would provide, bolts and locking washers. We also include a maintenance kit with spray foam and ways to mitigate leaks if that should occur, and instruction manuals to help ensure assembly is done correctly.
bacteria that they're talking about is to be addressed with a filter that's only replaced once a year?
So we'd love to talk about the unique design of our filter. So essentially, like we said, there are 2 stages to our filter, right? So the dirtiest water first goes through a particulate filter, which is designed with 4 layers. And what we wanted to do with our filter was ensure that it wouldn't change the taste of the water and that all the filter materials were biodegradable, because we don't want to bring excessive plastics and other materials to contaminate their environment. So our filtration works by passing through coarse gravel, fine gravel, sand, and diatomaceous earth to ensure a thorough removal of particulates. And then we believe that our strongest innovation with regards to the filter happens in the antimicrobial layer, which is essentially a modified cellulose matrix impregnated with zeolites. And these zeolites have copper and zinc nanoparticles bonded to them. This ensures that bacteria and protozoa are killed as they pass through the membrane while still being a fully naturally derived material. Cellulose matrices essentially just mean modified cotton balls. Cotton that is chemically treated and then having zeolites grown in situ in them and then having these nanoparticles bond to the surface. It appears just like a natural material that these people would feel comfortable with and be able to understand. And unlike chlorine and iodine-based disinfection tablets, it wouldn't impart an off or chemical taste to the water that would result in the population not wanting to adopt such a technology. So based on how this is designed, we are removing most of the cloggable materials early in the filter. And because we're not using chemicals like chlorine that get used up because they generate reactive oxygen species in the bacterial destruction process, but rather using these nanoparticles that essentially don't get used up in the process but just stay in place and disrupt the cell walls, we can ensure that our filter lasts for a very long time because those materials are not being consumed and it's not being clogged either.
Okay, that answer chewed up our time, so we are finished. Thank you. Clicker, you guys take the clicker? Yeah, ready?
That clicker.
You guys got the clicker. You took the clicker with you. It's a competitive advantage. Don't let the other teams have a clicker. Let's give the judges just Thank you. It's like we have the press corps here. You put up a prototype, these guys want to take a photo. Judges, you sent these to order? Just to order. Not trying to rush it. Okay, Team Golf Ladder, you're ready whenever you are.
Dwelling beneath the surface, the ocean unfolds as an intricate ecosystem full of diverse species and vibrant coral formations. The ocean is a breathtaking realm that not only supports life for millions of sea creatures, but human life. Unfortunately, the scales of the ecosystem are tipping. The demand for food is growing at rates it has never done before. In order to keep up, fishermen are using unsustainable practices that claim the lives of millions of animals and destroy their habitat. The most damaging method is bottom trawling, used to catch shrimp. They drag giant nets across the bottom of the ocean floor, destroying any coral that's in their way. Another problem is that it catches way more than just shrimp. Bycatch is the catching of unwanted animals during commercial fishing. Mammals like dolphins and turtles get trapped into nets and can't escape until it's too late. Fishermen often cut off the nets because they get stuck on the ocean floor. Fish nets are the most lethal form of trash floating in the ocean. If the nets do break down to very small parts, the fish consume it, introducing microplastics into your food. The environmental toll the fishing industry is taking on the ocean is unsustainable. But it doesn't have to be this way. Through adaptation of traditional bottom trawling nets and innovative technology, it is possible to maintain the current supply of seafood while minimizing the damage of the ocean. Replacing today's practices with sustainable ones ensures that the fishing industry can keep thriving for centuries to come. Join us to forge a path to maintain the ocean's beauty.
Flighters, and we're here to talk to you about how we are going to safekeep marine life. This picture was taken in Galveston last summer, where thousands of fish washed ashore dead. This is a result of bycatching and marine life destruction. We want to solve this problem by minimizing bycatch and minimizing marine destruction during shrimp bottom trawling in the Gulf of Mexico.
So, because this is a environmental first product, any successful design needed to reduce bycatch by at least 50%. The shrimping industry in America has been around for over a century using the same methods. If we continue, there will not be a shrimping industry in the next 100 years. We'd also like to reduce seabed contact by at least 50%. And because, of course, without commercial fishing partners, we wouldn't be able to change our practices. We are respectful of their time, of their 18-hour workdays. We'd like to decrease their efficiency as little as possible. We'd like to reduce the damage and loss of their equipment by 50%, which also contributes to ghost nets. And, of course, we understand many of these are medium, small, and family-owned businesses. We'd like to burden them as little as possible with costs. And you may see 50% is a recurring number here. This was just a base estimate. We do hope to succeed these numbers significantly, but we wanted to have a solid commitment.
So we came up with 3 net-based designs to address these design requirements. So the first design features a sensing camera that is able to detect species other than shrimp entering the net. When it detects a species other than shrimp, it'll allow it to escape through the escape hole. The second design features a filter screen that filters aquatic species larger than shrimp. However, if a baby fish the size of a shrimp is able to slip through the filter, there are escape holes provided at the top so that the fish can find its way out. And the third design features a centrifuge that uses centrifugal force to sort the smaller fish from the larger fish. Ultimately, we decided that design 2 is the best because it adjusts the design requirements the best while minimizing the cost of production. And we also felt that it was the most feasible to design while being the most efficient in reducing the amount of bycatch.
So during our research for this design, we found that there's a number of existing solutions that attempt to mitigate the negative effects of this fishing practice. So our innovation is integrating those different solutions into one cohesive unit that attempts to use these solutions to attack the problems from a number of different angles. So here's our prototype. You can see that there's a laser cut grate at the front of the prototype, which will prevent fish that are not the target species from entering the net, while allowing shrimp, which is the target species, to enter without resistance. And we have a video up here, if you'll direct your attention to the slides, demonstrating this, where the small particles represent shrimp, whereas the goldfish are the non-target species.
So now we have this filtration system for size initially, but what happens if these smaller or younger fish actually get through that filtration system? That's why we have these green LED lights. I'm going to turn it on in a second. Towards the top of the net with escape holes to allow the fish that are attracted to this green light to swim towards the top and swim out. You might be wondering, well, can't the shrimp just get out of that too? Well, the shrimp will naturally just kind of stay towards their habitat, towards the seabed, so we don't see it as an issue or anticipate any issues of them swimming out towards the escape holes. Also, with the green LED lights, we intend to put a power source on one of these flotation devices, which you'll hear more about in a second, and have waterproof wiring and casing for that, and have it go to the LEDs. And the LEDs actually heat up and prevent algae and barnacle buildup in the LEDs, so that they don't need to be replaced as often. Only about 5 or 6 years. So I'm that's to the left.
So we also wanted to include a drag reduction system in our update of this 100-year-old method. The current method drags a net surface area of 2,000 feet across the ocean floor all day, every day. How bad is this? This one particular type of fishing contributes the same amount of CO2 emissions from stirring up mud as all aviation globally. So, at the front, we have solid rubber tires that reduce the amount of friction with the front, no dragage but rolling. They're heavy enough to ensure contact with the seafloor, which is where most of the shrimp catch is going to be. It doesn't interfere with that aspect. We also have significantly more flotation devices at the top to lift approximately 90% of the surface net off of the ground, the seafloor, and reduce the amount of drag.
We estimate the cost based on the current manufacturing practices and material costs. So in our expectation, the modification cost would be 20 to 30% of medium-sized commercial trawling net cost, and cost percentage will go down the larger the net because of the lower fuel cost. And also, consumer costs will be decreased with economy of scale.
Okay, so obviously our net's going to be a little more expensive than just your typical run-of-the-mill standard net. So some ways we intend to be more commercially viable is obviously through public perception. There was a World Finance study that showed approximately 30% of consumers are less likely to buy a product from a company that engages in poor environmental practices. So obviously we all remember the BP incident and how they still have that kind of image and reputation in dealing with that. And another way is about 70% of consumers are more likely to purchase something seafood in the store if it has some sort of sustainable labeling on it. So our net actually meets the requirements of the Marine Stewardship Council, and so any seafood that's sold caught with our net will have this labeling. So we expect it to increase sales for them. And then another recent trend is regulations in fishing zones. Once commercial fishing reaches a certain bycatch rate, they're forced to early close that zone, and they're not allowed more time to fish there. So with our nets decreasing their bycatch limit, they're allowed to fish there longer, get what they want, and ultimately make more sales getting what they want and not closing those zones early. So we've been Gulf Gliders. Thank you for listening. We hope you join us.
Judges, the floor is yours.
Could you go a little deeper into the efficiency impacts? I saw that, as one of your problem statements, but unless I missed it, I didn't hear you talk about how that played out in your solution.
Of course. So we are attempting to get most of the net off the ground and still catching the same amount of shrimp. The surface area of the net contacting the bottom is about 2,000 feet squared. By lifting that off the ground out of the mud and the front rolling as opposed to dragging, we expect to decrease the amount of horsepower needed to drag nets, which leads to less time, less money spent on fuel, and potentially a faster vessel spends less time on the water.
That makes sense, but I'm talking about the things you want to catch, shrimp, whatever, passing under because it's now elevated up above the seafloor. Are you going to lose some of the catch that way?
That is a fair question. So the way nets work currently is the dragging motion sends vibrations throughout the mud, which excites the shrimp, and they swim upwards to escape sensation, which is where
which is what drives them into the net currently. Those wheels we feel would still be able to create a similar vibration and then drive them out.
Would you pull this net at a slower rate than the current net so that you don't, like even the species up against your grate are going to get trapped by the water pressure? So did you look at the speed of pulling the net and how much pressure the fish may be needing at that grate?
Would you like to answer this? Would you like to answer?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Taking the speed of the net. In other words, pulling the speed of the net. There's going to be a certain amount of pressure against anything that's captured on that front part of the grate.
Mm-hmm.
Will this net be pulled at a slower rate to reduce the amount of pressure on the fish as they are being held against that grate?
Yes. It would be pulled at the same rate, but I don't really anticipate that being that much of an issue because the flow of the water will travel around the whole entire apparatus. So if something is caught, it'll be able to squiggle its way to the outside and find its way around it.
So the net itself is the thing that's 20 to 30% more, right?
20 or 30% more
Cost.
Oh, yes. Like, so it's the net and then the additions kind of to that net, like the wheels, the lights, and the kind of filter in the front.
Hey, what percent of operational cost is the net? I mean, is this?
A net this size costs about $2,000 for a small to medium-sized fishery, and would be replaced every 5 or so years. Most sensitive components, the electrical system, the green lights, last about 5 to 6 years, and everything else is more durable. So we foresee this net lasting about the same as
So compared to running the whole business, how much would the net? Would that be a significant cost?
The net would cost more, obviously, because of the new innovations on it, but we expect the additional cost to outweigh the cost of labor to remove all the bycatch in the long run.
Yeah, and then like I was talking before, those regulatory, just making sure they're spending more time before they reach their limit of bycatch to ensure that they get really what they want and sell more of the seafood.
I had a question related to the LED light. What makes you think that the way you're envisioning these two nets working, that fish will actually get through?
Yeah, so
like a range of fish sizes or something.
Yeah, so we're looking, the specific lights we're looking at emitted up to 20,000 lumens, so they're pretty bright lights, and they're also smaller fish, so they're going to be more attracted to it, and so, yeah.
Question, which fish would be getting through the grate?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the lights were to account for maybe younger fish, so because they would be smaller in size, so if they're not full grown, they may pass through the grate, so that's the goal of it.
Yeah, it's like the primary and then secondary filter for making sure there's ultimately as little as possible of bycatch of what we don't want.
Okay, thank you, Team Gulf Ladder. Vanguard. That'd be great, thank you. I'm gonna chase you down. Yes. Or take the badges if you're there. Yeah. You guys wait. Get settled in. Just don't beat you. Get settled in. Just wait till I give you order. The judges get stable. Coach, you ready? Vanguard, you're up.
Inside Mumbai, India, a lack of economic mobility compacts 1.2 million people into slums. These buildings are poorly built and lack basic necessities, but these are not the only issues residents face. Monsoons cause flooding due to a lack of a proper drainage system, and standing water becomes a breeding ground for infection and disease. Earthquakes rattle the walls of these homes and cause extensive property damage and injury to residents. There is an urgent need for improving the infrastructure to mitigate the impact of these natural disasters. Vanguard infuses concrete with the natural strength of bamboo, providing people with a cheap, eco-friendly solution that allows them to improve their living conditions without sacrificing their community. From repairing cracks to building entire houses, Vanguard is invented to address the needs of these communities. We are not repairing houses. We are repairing homes. We at Vanguard believe that the preservation of culture and safety of those closest to us take precedence over all. Vanguard. Strength in nature, durability in design.
Nuclear engineer, and these are my teammates. Hello, my name is Christine Park, and I'm a junior electrical engineer. Hi, my name is Lauren Christians, and I'm a senior material science and engineer. Hi, I'm Lisa, and I'm a mechanical engineer. Hi, my name is Emily Baker, and I am a senior in applied mathematics with an emphasis in computational science.
Hi, my name is Alejandro Castro. I'm a senior in industrial distribution.
Okay, guys, I want you guys to imagine for a minute in this situation. Imagine your home, the walls in your home have holes in them, were broken. Imagine your family was constantly being infected with diseases due to the pollution in the area. Not only that, imagine your house being flooded because of the monsoon season. In addition to that, there's also earthquakes that constantly happen within the area, which has also caused 20,000 deaths, preventable deaths in the area, within your own community. Approximately 94 million people live in this area, which go through those same circumstances, those same issues, and face those same problems every single day. With a monthly income of only $47, there's only so much that we can expect from them. So, with a common solution that most people think would be to probably move location, or change to a different building, or change community. But we need to also keep in mind that this is just not a house, this is not just an infrastructure, this is not just a building, this is a person's home. This is where families were formed, this is where people were loved, this is where people were brought about, were born into. We need to not only just take in mind that these are not houses, but homes of people. We as Vanguard want not only for you guys to open your mind, but also open your heart to these situations. We as Vanguard created many ideas, challenges, and created many designs for the solution to what we are right now. In summary, there needs to be a cost to design cheap yet durable material for eco-friendly housing repair. To start, we had to consider 6 design requirements. For our design, we wanted it to be durable for roughly 10 years, to be able to sustain 2 inches of rain per hour, to hold against 4 to 5 magnitude earthquakes, to maintain within a budget of $5 to $10, to be a feasible option for a household of around 4 people, and to be respectful to the culture of this people we're trying to help. For our early propositions, we were considering earthquake mats, a sealant for doors and windows, as well as steel walls with waterproof spray. And in addition, after we did a little bit more research, we considered the economic feasibility of these options, and we were wondering how we could implement it with tools that are readily available, or how we could be more considerate about their position
to be more considerate about their position by being more mindful of how they want it to implement it in their own. Alright, so BAMGuard is a revolutionary concrete composite that contains bamboo, which is both cheap and eco-friendly. This would contain about 1.5% bamboo fibers, 32% bamboo powder, and the rest containing like a normal concrete mix. This will allow us to strengthen a regular concrete mix, and it would be much cheaper than a normal concrete mix, since about a third of it would be with bamboo, which would be basically free within India. And this concrete mix would be able to aid in damage against monsoons and earthquakes, which are very prevalent in India and cause tremendous damage. So with this concrete, we would be able to, we could start out small by filling cracks within walls. We could help reinforce existing walls, which we can use like bamboo reinforcement in between it, or we could help aid in recreating a brand new house for them, which could include a concrete base and concrete walls. Giving them this option will allow them to either preserve their culture by keeping the house that they already have without making them move out, or we could give them the new option of creating a new home if the monsoon or earthquake were to destroy them, the house.
So we modeled a portion of our so we 3D modeled a portion of our a portion of the wall made of our rubber. So you can see on the slide the wall so the wall are made in a manner where the bamboo matrix integrated into our concrete. And this is the side view of cross view of a wall made of our product. The bamboo sticks are colored in green, and you can see and this is our prototype. You can see this is the inside. So if you were to cut the wall in half, this is how the inside will look like. Just the inside and they are embedded into our concrete. So in conditions where there are very severe weather conditions, houses can be destroyed. And in such a case, we recommend reconstruct a new house based on our prototype. So that's because our concrete can also make the base of the house. So we can build water tunnels inside of the base, so water can flow through the tunnels, and the slope of the side of the wall can allow water to go down, so it won't damage the house.
We've calculated an estimated cost for a bag of BAMGuard to be about $6. This is well within the price range for someone living in these slums, which they earn about $47 per month. And we're trying to keep the labor local, so the manufacturing will be done in India. This way, we're not only able to keep costs down, but we're able to offer employment at fair wages, so that we're attacking the housing problem, but we're also helping to bridge the wage gap.
So by looking at this problem from a Western perspective, we might think that this problem could be solved, will be solved using just moving all the people from the slums to places where they have better conditions. But our goal or purpose is to preserve the culture and preserve those communities by not destroying those houses, but rebuilding their homes. or purpose.
Okay, thank you, Vanguard. Judges?
So, talked about one container being about $6, but how many containers would be required to make, say, the wall, and then with the bamboo on
We do
it?
actually have a little bit more of a nitty-gritty financial breakdown here. This is the breakdown of how we got the cost, so that's the gross cost of protection. And then for one entire house to reinforce it, it would be about $480. So that's about, I believe, 20 bags of the mix, if I remember my numbers right. And that's kind of the beauty of this product, is that you are not having to buy all this material at once. People can buy it a little bit at a time. So this cost of investment, I know, is an issue for people living in these conditions. So the initial cost of investment can be kind of offset by what you can buy in a little bit of time and build this up over the course of a contract.
Okay, so you said the mix is 75% traditional concrete with aggregate, things like that, and then you said, I'm trying to remember, it's 5% fiber and then the 25%?
It is 1.5% of just bamboo fibers. It would be about 32% of bamboo-like powder.
How did you arrive at that mixture?
Well, we did some research and we found, not commercially used whatsoever, but someone did a study that the best bamboo powder percentage mixed with different like concretes and cements was about a third of it. And we concluded that using studies that use like nano or glass fibers and like normal cement here in America, fibers make a tremendous difference. So we concluded that using bamboo fibers around 1 to 3%, we chose 1.5%, would really reinforce our concrete.
And what did that study say it did to the tensile strength of the concrete?
So the tensile strength with the bamboo fibers in it showed, yeah, right here. So we have a comparison between steel and concrete, and we have our bamboo fibers and bamboo as a whole stick. It shows that the tensile strength is a lot stronger in general. We don't know, there's no test conducted for tensile tests on bamboo, so that would be something we would test in the future. But this shows tremendous possibilities for our concrete.
My understanding right that you're using, it's not on the bamboo fibers, but you're also using the complete, bamboo as rebar effectively.
Basically, yeah. So this would be our product, but we wanted to show multiple applications, similar to how concrete is set here in America. We use it's steel rods to set it, and that helps with the tensile strength of the concrete. So we were wanting to utilize just bamboo sticks as those rods.
And the cost analysis for that for a heat-treated bamboo stick is about 70 cents per piece, so people can still get a lot of mileage out of their money.
Any others? All right. Thanks, Team Vanguard. Okay, used it right. Used it right. Okay, water-wise. There's a clicker for need that. So you guys just get settled in right now. Let's let the judges finish scoring the last team. I think the judges are ready. Waterwise, you're up.
Good afternoon, I'm Zoe Hockaday.
I'm Jaden Montalvo.
I'm Hamna Shahid. I'm Tanvi Agarwal.
I'm Cedric Now.
And I'm Anand Rajkumar.
And we are Waterwise.
As several parts of India continue to reel under scorching heat, a village in Maharashtra's Telambadi district is grappling with severe water shortage. Due to the acute water crisis, women in the village are forced to fetch water from the well to meet their daily needs by risking their lives.
India, a vibrant tapestry of culture and heritage, stands at a critical crossroads, grappling with a water crisis of unprecedented proportions. Beyond just scarcity, lives crumble, innocence fades, and futures dissolve. 92% of India's freshwater reserves are used for agriculture, leaving mere droplets for the other 1.4 billion citizens. The biggest culprit? Traditional rice farming methods, particularly the irrigation of rice paddies, which not only deplete precious water by flooding fields, but also spawn detrimental health repercussions. But it doesn't have to be this way. With WaterWise, this revolutionary solution, farmers can slash water usage by a staggering 1/3, all while producing a positive yield. A minimal upfront investment is all it takes to transform the agricultural landscape, ensuring sustainability, prosperity, and a healthier future for India. Now is the moment to act. Together, we can rewrite the future and secure the vitality of generations to come.
Issue in India and exactly how to fix that with requirements on our design, solutions, and a final product. And more specifically, why you should choose WaterWise.
So currently, only 30% of the world's population has access to clean drinking water. And a study states that in India, if they don't change their water infrastructure, by 2050, the water demand will surpass the amount of water quality that they can provide to their population. 92% of water used today in India is used in agriculture. As a whopping 41% in the United States, there is a big comparison in agriculture practices. Half of the agriculture produced in India is produced on rice paddies with a technique called flooded irrigation. And this requires the paddy field to maintain a 5 to 10 centimeter 10 centimeters of water on top of the soil in the paddy fields. This takes away from the other population of India and creates a challenge of water security for the nation. Since rice farming employs 50% of India's population and accounts for 40% of India's exports, there is a need for a change that doesn't compromise on the productivity of these rice paddies for these populations.
This problem in mind, let's explore the pivotal design requirements needed to make this method more transformative and innovative. Firstly, we have the saving of water by more than 30% without compromising yield. We want to make sure that there is enough fresh water reaching the general public. Then we have low cost effectiveness. We want to make sure that the money that is being used is less than 3 months of a farmer's income, which is about less than $6,000. And then we have profitability. We want to make sure that the farmers are earning enough money that is more than the initial amount that they were spending on the flooding techniques. And then we have effective pest control. We want to make sure that the method that we are using makes it an environment that is eco-friendly and less favorable for pests. And lastly, we have simplicity. We don't want to complicate things too much for our farmers and want to make sure that the method is easy to implement and understand and doesn't modify any of the techniques that are already being used.
So we've identified 3 key solutions from developed nations which can be implemented in India. The drip irrigation, which involves placing tubes with emitters near the plant. This reduces water wastage by about 50%. However, it requires insignificantly high investment cost and ongoing management. The farmers also need to be really educated enough to ensure its efficient use. The next method is sprinkler method, which means like natural rainfall covering the entire field, which saves about 30% of water, but also require high pumping cost. The wind susceptibility leads to more water loss due to evaporation, and the wet foliage leads to an increase in the risk for diseases. The third is alternate wetting and drying. Just as the name suggests, it literally means flooding the field, letting it dry out, and reflooding it only when required. This method is exceptionally beneficial because it accounts for weed and pest control and also eradicates the problem of water scarcity by saving water by about 40%.
Alternating wetting and drying is a proven irrigation technique for rice fields. Here's how it works. First, you flood the field up to 5 centimeters above the ground, and you let that water naturally absorb and percolate down the soil until it reaches 15 centimeters below the surface of the soil. Once this has occurred, you simply flood it again. There are several key benefits to this technique. First off, 40% water reduction with the same yield and no additional costs for the farmers. There's no additional infrastructure that needs to be built. They can use the same pumps, same systems they've already been using. You may be wondering, why hasn't this been adopted already? Well, there's a key issue. If the water level in these fields falls below 15 centimeters, the yield does decrease. And this makes farmers nervous because this is their livelihood. They don't want to see a decreased yield. So we have found that there's a real need for advice that is simple, easy to understand, and helps a farmer know exactly when they should start the next cycle of flooding under alternate wetting and drying. So we have developed a device for this purpose. This is the WaterWise sensor stick. Here's how it works. So you simply stick it in the ground, you water up and flood your field up to this point. Once the water has dropped 15 centimeters below the ground, the light turns on. That's it. Adapting, alternating wetting and drying is as simple as sticking a stake in the ground.
Now, the feasibility of this project. The first three things that we need to mention are environmental feasibility, timeline feasibility, and economic feasibility. As for environmental, let's be honest, conventional flooding just doesn't work. Farmers continue to waste billions in gallons of water every single year just to make rice. And this method that we're creating proves that if we can drop it by 40%, we're essentially saving roughly 6,000 to 8,000 gallons per person in India. As per timeline feasibility, this product can be created by today, the end of the week, end of the month. The process is as simple as sticking it in the ground and following the techniques. It requires no previous infrastructure or creating of new infrastructure. And finally, the economic. The cost per one sensor is $20, and it's only required to have one sensor per acre, meaning that you can see all the benefits that you would typically in a normal flooding system without having to see the negative without seeing any of the negative effects of wasting water or emissions. Farmers also see an increase on annual return as many farmers who have adopted this system in Vietnam have reported a 10% increase on their annual salary.
Alrighty, so we are proposing both the introduction of alternate wetting and drying irrigation system in India and our WaterWise sensor stick. The sensor stick exists solely to give peace of mind to the farmer, so that way he knows that this new system will work and he will know when to re-flood his field. Please help us revolutionize the farming in India so that way we can place the water back into the hands of the people. Thank you.
Okay, you mentioned Vietnam, and this is being used in Vietnam. How extensive is it? Why did they adopt it? What are they seeing in their yields? You said 10%, but tell me a little bit more about what's already being implemented in those areas.
Okay, so in Vietnam, they're seeing the 10% increase in their annual salary. The yield stays about the same. The reason why they changed is because they were also experiencing very high water shortage problems. And in order to address it, the government decided to try implementing these new methods to to see if adopting this new method is definitely, if it's plausible in the long run. And as for, because the study was conducted back in 2016, they've seen significant growth every single year.
What's been going on since 2016? If they saw a positive result, what's been going on since then?
I mean, they've been seeing the annual increase in salary, they've been seeing lower water usage every single year.
But is it being adopted?
Yes.
So a couple technical questions. You said 1 per acre. Doesn't the ground have to be extremely level in order to have the same reading on one side as on the other?
Yeah, I can take that one. So that is a very good point. That's something we considered. So this would need field testing to figure out exactly what is the proper density of placement for each of these devices.
Yeah, to add on to that, conventional rice paddies are built to be flooded. So they're not going to be built on a slope, so that way the water just pours out the other end. So these rice paddies are more than likely already mostly level, so that way the water levels are the same throughout the entire field.
How long will it take between the wetting and drying cycles?
That is, it depends on the environment.
The season, yeah.
And how what the weather is. But typically it can be between 1 to 4 days.
So they'd have to open the floodgates annually, probably.
Yes, that's how it's usually done.
So $20 per acre, how much do they usually make per acre?
Rice farmers can typically make about 3,000 kilograms of rice per acre. I'm not exactly sure what the rice to cost comparison is.
It can be on. I read that the lowest it can be normally on a bad yield year is about $50 per acre for smaller farms.
So thinking again about the number of these economic, you said you need to clarify that one cents per acre, but what's the average size of these farms?
So they have both commercial, which can be several and several thousands of acres. Typically, I'd say about whenever I was reading, they're almost 90,000 acres for the average commercial farm. The smaller farms we're found a large range of sizes. Some have them quite literally in their backyard to supply for their own families, and some have about 10 acres to take just to their own markets.
And you all chose to have this thing light up?
Yes, sir.
Were there other options for other?
Yeah, we've considered like maybe mobile phones. However, we wanted to. One of the biggest problems with alternative wetting and drying was the education barrier, and also the technology barrier. We don't know what everyone has access to it, so it's a lot easier if we were to implement a lighting system, and then show kind of a lighting system. If the light is green, then you know that the alternative wetting and drying system is working properly. But once you see the light turn red, the water has dropped below the 15 centimeters, and you know you have to start pumping it.
Maybe one more.
So you said 50 per acre, $50 yield per acre per year. Worst case, $20 cost. How are they going to afford this? The economics and the payoff.
How long does it?
Yeah, payoff.
Yeah, so addressing the lifespan of the device, these are very common durable materials. Solar panels tend to last 25 years. The sensors needed for this device can last 10 to 20 years. Specifically about the economics of the rice fields, we did a lot of research. It was really hard to pin down a specific cost per acreage. It varies widely based on the year, the market cost of rice, and techniques.
What was the efficiency gain number you said, Bill?
In water reduction?
In crop yield. I just wondered if you mapped that out to the cost of the product.
Yeah, the crop yield stays the same. It's you see an reduction or a decrease in overall water expenditures, overall gas expenditures.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Good job.
Okay, students, now on the screens, you're going to see a QR code. Please jump on, complete a very short survey of a couple questions, and you get to vote now on the People's Choice Awards. If you need to run to the restroom or something, please do that and be back here efficiently in the next handful of minutes. The judges will be retreating to the next room, and we'll come back in here and get you, and or we'll somehow be herded to the learning stairs. And was I right? Did some of you mess up?
Yes.
Absolutely. Did you live through it? Yeah. Guess what happens? Guess what happens the next time you do it? You mess up a little bit less. This is not a game learned from a book. It's not a game learned from the sidelines. This is a zero risk proposition. And you did a great job. And you made some mistakes. And every one of us, if we would have two. Perfection is not the goal. Okay? You did a nice job. You didn't always answer the questions because you're probably a little bit nervous. You didn't hear the questions. It happens. You get better as you do it. We're going to now do the People's Choice Awards. For People's Choice Awards, each teammate gets $25. All the awards, I'm sorry, I should say this, all the awards are added to your student account. That's the way money is transferred to students. If you have a balance, sorry, university's not stupid, they net it out. If you don't have a balance, you can withdraw the money within a couple of days, okay? Next thing to say, if you are first, second, or third place, one team member needs to be interviewed after we're finished, right over in this area, maybe, or somewhere over here. Yeah. Danny, Emily, they'll talk to you, okay? So please do that. And remember, if you're the winning team, we're going to need to know, sometime next week we'll follow up with you. We're going to need to know if you're available April 16th to the 18th to go to Acts in Provence. If you're not, feel relatively comfortable we can find a fill-in. Yes, sir. Okay, our first People's Choice winners for the most feasible solution. That award goes to, please stand, Team Waterwise. Oh, shit. Congratulations, good job. For the best prototype. With its rollers and its green light and its things, Golf Glider. I think there was some sewing skills in there. Nice job. Congratulations. And then for the best video, Project Wara. And the last People's Choice Award for the best presentation, Resoil. Okay, now we're going to get into the money. Please come up. We'll take some photos of you with the winning checks. And in third place, we have Team Resoil.
In front of the screen.
In front of the screen. All right, y'all grab it. Come over here.
Other side. There you go.
Over here, in front of the screen. This over here. Over here. All right.
Buy some more bigger ones.
Yeah. And now you're asking yourself, well, why do we have 7 teammates?
You wanna look at this camera first?
I'm just taking video.
Oh, never mind. Side.
Danny, you want me in or not in, Danny?
You wanna come in?
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
You need us out of your way.
No, you're pretty. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We'll take the chair.
Okay.
You're not taking it. Congratulations.
Nice job.
Awesome.
Second place. Thank you for taking care of all those fish in the world. Golf Glider, come on up. Good job. Hold it nice and level. You're engineers.
There we go. Look over here. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Congratulations. All right. Check back to
Mr. Finberg. All right. First place, winner of $5,000 and the opportunity to compete with the best other people. Teams from every university, as all those videos get submitted here, and we judge those over the next week or two. I don't want to be like the Academy Awards. He's got me worried. Team Waterwise. Over here in front of the screen. Yo, what's the first two teams doing?
Can I get you three in the back?
Yeah, with all.
Good. Oh, you can split the shit.
Yeah, wait. Perfect.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. There you go. I'm gonna look over here. Right here. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
All right. Congratulations. A winner, one person from every team. Stick around, get with Danny. And last request, please make sure all of your areas are sparkling clean. Your mother's not showing up to clean up after you, right? Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. Go home, do your homework.